"You can't continue behaving this way, Ethan," Charlotte remarked, fixing her wedding veil as she gazed into the mirror. "Our guests will notice something's wrong." Ethan Taylor shifted uneasily in his chair at the upscale bridal boutique. "Everything's fine, Charlotte. It's just nerves." "Nerves?" She pivoted to confront him, her intense blue gaze locked onto his. "You hold the position of CEO at a billion-dollar technology enterprise. You engage with investors and participate in board meetings on a daily basis. Since when have you started feeling anxious? A wedding stands apart. It's just another social gathering," Charlotte said, refocusing on her reflection in the mirror. "Just more elaborate and with longer-lasting consequences." Her clinical and calculated discussion of the wedding made Ethan shift once more. He observed his fiancée, radiant in her designer dress, attempting to push aside the uneasy sensation in his chest. "Is the guest list complete?" he inquired, trying to shift the focus of the conversation. "Indeed, 352 of our closest friends and business associates," she remarked with a hint of a smirk. "The cream of society, all assembled to witness our flawless union." Just then, the wedding planner entered the room, tablet in hand. "Ms. Miller, we must talk about the seating arrangements for the rehearsal dinner, and Mr. Taylor, your best man, has called. There's a problem with the bachelor party venue." "Cancel it," Ethan stated decisively. Charlotte twirled around. "Cancel it? Ethan, that's not possible. It is a long-standing custom. I'm not feeling up for any festivities." "Not feeling up for it?" Charlotte's voice lifted a bit. "This is precisely what I mean. You seem to be a bit removed, preoccupied. If you're having second thoughts—" "I'm not," Ethan interrupted, rising to his feet. "I simply require a breath of fresh air. Feel free to manage the arrangements in any way you see fit. You're more skilled at this than I am." He exited the boutique, loosening his tie as he stepped onto the sidewalk. The spring air offered no relief for his muddled thoughts. In just 1 week, he would be tying the knot with Charlotte Miller, a stunning and refined woman, impeccably matched to be the partner of a young tech millionaire. It appeared flawless in theory. What was it that made him feel as though he was being smothered? The device vibrated in his pocket. Yet another note from his assistant regarding the wedding arrangements. Ethan brushed it aside and continued on his way, his thoughts wandering to a time before wealth, before Charlotte, when life felt more straightforward. Back when, his phone buzzed again, this time with a message from Charlotte. "The bridesmaid's final fitting is scheduled for tomorrow. A college friend is coming in to join them. Do you recall Emily Harper?" Ethan froze, his gaze locked onto the name displayed on his screen. Emily Harper. Her first love, the one who slipped through his fingers. The weight in his chest intensified. He hadn't laid eyes on Emily in years, not since the time before his fortune was made. Not since she shattered his heart without a word. And now she would be present at his wedding, standing among Charlotte's bridesmaids. "Perfect," he murmured, tucking his phone away into his pocket. "Just perfect." The security guard at his building acknowledged with a nod as Ethan confidently walked by, making his way directly to the private elevator that led to his penthouse. He craved a drink, or perhaps more, anything to quiet the whirlwind of memories swirling in his mind. Emily's laugh, her smile, the way her eyes lit up when she looked at him as if he were everything to her. Just 1 week until the wedding, 1 week until he would pledge himself to Charlotte for eternity. 1 week to lay the past to rest forever. If only it were that easy. "Could you remind me why Emily Harper is one of your bridesmaids?" Ethan inquired, as they enjoyed dinner in their penthouse apartment. Charlotte gracefully dabbed her lips with a luxurious silk napkin. "Do you recall when we shared a room back in college? I mentioned this to you at the beginning of our relationship. You didn't bring up the idea of keeping in contact. Last year, we found our way back to each other on social media." Charlotte observed him intently, her wine glass in hand. "Will that pose an issue?" "Why would it be? Since she is your former girlfriend, the one you were with prior to becoming?" She waved her hand to encompass their opulent apartment. "All this?" Ethan murmured, pushing his barely touched food around his plate. "Ancient history. Excellent. This wedding must be flawless. The media will be observing closely. My father's business associates will be present. The individuals who provide financial support for your endeavors. I understand. The union of two influential clans. A union forged in the realm of business. Charlotte's gaze sharpened, her tone calm yet gentle. Don't adopt a cynical perspective, Ethan. We complement each other well. Indeed, we are. I have dedicated myself to being the ideal companion for you, for our relationship. And I pondered, I truly believed that was sufficient. She gazed downward, her fingers delicately following the rim of her wine glass. Perhaps I desired this wedding more than I longed for your desire for me. But does that cast me as the antagonist? Is that so? Absolutely. I don't anticipate elaborate displays of affection. I won't be playing the role of the devoted housewife, if that's what you're thinking. We are collaborators. Equals. Ethan rose from his seat and made his way to the expansive windows that offered a breathtaking view of the city below. 5 years prior, he found himself in a small apartment, dedicating his efforts to his startup. Now he had amassed a fortune, betrothed to a woman who seemed flawless in every conceivable way. You're pondering her, aren't you? Charlotte's voice cut through the air with precision. No. Liar. She stepped beside him at the window. Listen closely, Ethan. Emily Harper belongs to a chapter that has already been written. A bygone era you moved on from as you achieved greatness. Keep her presence from adding unnecessary complexity. I mentioned its ancient history, Charlotte said, lightly placing her hand on his arm. Then demonstrate it. Display to all at this wedding that you've embraced change, that you're content with the decisions you've taken. Ethan managed to smile. Of course. Later that night, in the solitude of his home office, he searched for Emily's name online. The investigation yielded minimal results, uncovering only a handful of social media profiles indicating that she had transitioned into an art teacher. There are no extravagant getaways, no high-end fashion, and no tales of corporate triumph. She appeared to be in high spirits, however. Her smile in the photos was authentic, illuminating her eyes in a manner that Charlotte's never achieved. Ethan shut the browser, massaging his temples in frustration. What was he up to? Charlotte was indeed correct. Emily represented a chapter long closed, a reflection of his former self, not the person he had become. A message from Charlotte made his phone vibrate. Remember, tomorrow night is the rehearsal dinner. Emily is going to be present. Mind your manners. Ethan remained silent. Tomorrow night, he would confront the woman who shattered his heart, the one he had never truly moved on from. What could possibly go awry? The sophisticated banquet hall hummed with lively chatter as Emily Harper made her entrance. Ethan felt a sudden jolt in his chest. She appeared unchanged, yet somehow transformed. Her dark hair had been trimmed, now cascading just past her shoulders, yet her warm brown eyes remained unchanged. Ethan, Charlotte's voice jolted him back to the present. The caterer requires your approval on the wine selection. However, it was already too late. Emily caught sight of him, and their gazes locked from across the room. For a fleeting instant, the clamor dissipated, and they found themselves 22 once more, vibrant and enamored. Suddenly, Charlotte emerged beside him, her arm encircling his waist with a sense of ownership. Emily, you're here. I wouldn't miss it, Emily replied, her voice gentle yet unwavering. Congratulations to you both. Thank you, Charlotte radiated with joy. Ethan, my dear, please greet Emily. Hello, he replied, his throat parched. Hi, Emily repeated. A tense stillness enveloped them until Charlotte finally spoke up. Emily, allow me to present you to the other bridesmaids. Ethan, remember the wine, Charlotte called as she guided Emily away, leaving Ethan to slip out onto the balcony. The crisp night air failed to soothe his tumultuous mind. You appear to be in good spirits, he remarked as he turned. Emily lingered in the doorway, pausing momentarily before venturing out to join him. You do as well, he replied. Teaching is a perfect fit for you. It seems you've been keeping an eye on me. Just curious, Emily mused, leaning against the railing. Charlotte appears to be an ideal match for you. Driven, determined. As if you weren't. That's not fair, Ethan. Neither was departing without a word. Emily's body tightened with anticipation. The situation was intricate. Challenge me. This isn't the right moment or setting, she remarked, pivoting to leave. It's your rehearsal dinner, Ethan said, gently grasping her arm. Emily, please don't, she said, stepping back. You are set to tie the knot in just 3 days with my friend. Whatever transpired between us, it belongs to the past. Is it really? Before she had the chance to respond, Charlotte's voice echoed through the air. Ethan, where have you gone? The toasts are beginning. Emily retreated into the shadows. Go ahead. Your fiancé requires your presence. Ethan observed her vanish into the festivities, his thoughts swirling. He had believed that encountering her once more would provide a sense of resolution. Instead, it had reopened every wound he believed had long since healed. Inside, Charlotte awaited, her smile flawlessly positioned. Is everything all right? All right? He deceived, settling in next to her. As the speeches commenced, his gaze continually wandered to Emily, and each time it did, he found her already watching him. It appeared that certain matters were not as securely relegated to the past as he had believed. As he lay awake that night, Ethan found himself unable to stem the tide of memories rushing through his mind. Their initial encounter at the university coffee shop, where Emily juggled her part-time job and her art projects, her hands marked with paint, the sound of her laughter ringing out at his awful jokes, and then his phone buzzing with a message from an unknown number. We should talk. Shall we meet for coffee tomorrow? Emily? Ethan propped himself up in bed, his gaze fixed on the screen. Charlotte shifted next to him, yet remained in slumber. Where? He typed back. The familiar spot, 9 a.m. Joe's coffee shop, the birthplace of memories, and the site of farewells. The following morning, he concocted a story about a business meeting. Charlotte hardly lifted her gaze from her wedding planning binder. Emily was already present when he got there, seated at their familiar table by the window. She had a sketchbook laid out before her, reminiscent of days gone by. Do you still create art? He said, sliding into the seat across from her. Some habits are difficult to break. She shut the book. Thank you for being here. What prompted you to arrange this meeting? We can't continue to gaze at one another in the same way we did last night. Not with your wedding just 2 days away. Ethan cradled his coffee cup in his hands. You departed, Emily, abruptly and without a word of reason. I was worthy of more than that. My father was sick, she murmured, her voice quivering. Cancer. We couldn't manage the treatments and I didn't want to impose on you. Then the investors approached me. They mentioned that your success relied on releasing distractions. That referred to me. They even offered money for my father's care. She paused, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. Initially, I declined. Yet each day, I witnessed the immense pressure you faced and the countless sacrifices you made for your vision. I believed that distancing myself was the sole path to assist you. What couldn't it be? Are you truly willing to let go of your aspirations? You might have made an effort to assist, investing funds that were essential for the business. Certainly, I would have. I loved you. The weight of the past lingered in the air between them. So, you're tying the knot with Charlotte now, Emily remarked. Does she bring you joy? She has a point. That's not what I inquired about. Ethan gazed out the window. What brings you here, Emily? Because I seek clarity on whether my past decision was the correct one, and because you must feel confident in the decision you are facing now. My father, by the way, is still with us, she added gently. We found a way, but by that time you had already achieved success already with Charlotte. You might have returned. Could it have changed anything? Before he had the chance to respond, his phone vibrated. Charlotte, I must take my leave, he said, rising to his feet. Ethan, Emily grasped his hand. Just ensure that you are certain. Concerning Saturday, be very sure. He withdrew, yet her touch remained on his skin as he returned to the office, back to his meticulously crafted existence that now seemed to rest on unstable ground. Where were you earlier today? Charlotte faced Ethan the moment he stepped into their apartment that evening. I mentioned it to you. Business meeting? Seriously? After I reached out to your office, your assistant informed me that you were unavailable. Ethan adjusted his tie with a hint of frustration. I had a meeting with a potential investor. Remote. Don't deceive me, Charlotte said, raising her phone high. Someone spotted you at Joe's coffee shop with Emily. The silence lingered between them. It wasn't what you believe, he finally stated. Then what could it have been? Charlotte's voice held a steady composure, yet her hands betrayed her with a subtle tremor. What could possibly be so significant that you needed to see your ex-girlfriend just 2 days before our wedding? She felt the need to share the reasons for her departure years ago, and that conversation couldn't be postponed until after the wedding. Charlotte? No, she interrupted him. I have observed you since the rehearsal dinner. Your gaze upon her is captivating. I see everything, Ethan. Nothing transpired. Yet you yearned for it too, didn't you? He was unable to respond. Charlotte let out a harsh laugh. Do you know what's amusing? I always understood that I wasn't the epic romance you sought. I was fine with that. We make a great team, Ethan. We understand the world around us. Affection is exaggerated. Do you truly hold that belief? It's what I know. She moved in closer. We are an unstoppable duo. We have a mutual understanding. Isn't that more appealing than a mere romantic fantasy? I don't know anymore. Well, figure it out quickly. Charlotte's tone turned steely. Because if you plan to embarrass me at this wedding, I'd prefer to be informed now. I wouldn't. Would you? She locked her gaze with his. Can you stand at that altar and vow to love only me, fully aware that she's watching, that she still harbors feelings for you? She does not. Text, please. I noticed the way she glanced at you as well. Charlotte clutched her purse tightly. I'm spending the night at my parents' place. Take this moment to reflect on what you truly desire, Ethan. However, keep in mind that every decision carries its own repercussions. She hesitated at the threshold. And Ethan, if you choose her, if you do that to me, I'll make sure you regret it, both of you. The door slammed shut, leaving Ethan in solitude, grappling with his thoughts and a choice that would alter the course of everything. Ethan strode through his penthouse, bourbon in hand. Charlotte's voice resonated in his thoughts, intertwining with recollections of Emily. He retrieved his phone and flicked through the old photos he had never bothered to delete, images of him and Emily from years past, both beaming, both content. His finger lingered just above Emily's number. Don't, he whispered under his breath, yet he pressed call regardless. Ethan. Her voice wavered with uncertainty. It's late. Charlotte is aware of what happened this morning. A moment of stillness. I apologize. I regret asking you to meet me. I required that information. Concerning your father, regarding the reasons for your departure. It doesn't change anything, Emily murmured gently. You're tying the knot tomorrow. What if it alters the course of events? The bourbon infused him with courage. What if I can't follow through with it? Ethan, please cease. Share with me that you don't sense it as well. The connection we share, it remains alive. Certainly, I can sense it. Emily's voice trembled. But experiencing an emotion doesn't necessarily validate its correctness. So what is correct? Entering into a union with someone I don't have feelings for? There must be some affection for her in some way. You made a proposal. Ethan settled onto his couch. I proposed because it felt right, because she belongs in my life now, but she's not. Not what? Not you. The silence lingered in the air between them. I can't be the reason you cancel your wedding, Emily finally stated. I refuse to be that individual. You are not the cause. You're the wake-up call. Ethan rose and approached the window. I have been living a life that isn't truly mine, Emily. The accomplished executive, the ideal partner, the grand estate, the lavish gatherings. Everything seems surreal. Individuals evolve, Ethan. Perhaps this is the essence of your being now, or perhaps I have wandered off and lost sight of myself in the process. He leaned his forehead against the cool glass. Do you ever ponder our connection? What could have been? Please don't, she whispered. Kindly refrain from asking me that. I must seek the answer. Certainly, I ponder it. Emily's voice was scarcely a whisper. Each day. However, it holds no significance at this moment. Your existence intertwines with Charlotte's. A fulfilling existence, a secure existence, a hollow existence. Ethan, I must leave now. He ended the call suddenly, his heart racing. His phone buzzed to life, lighting up with messages from Charlotte. Have you come to a conclusion? The florists require final confirmation for tomorrow's arrangements. My father's lawyers are poised to submit the prenup. Each message landed like another brick in a wall, tightening the space around him. He reflected on Emily's artwork, her dedication to education, her heartfelt smile. Then he pondered Charlotte's strategic maneuvers, her ascent through social ranks, her flawless yet icy precision. He came to the realization that wealth had transformed him. Or perhaps he had transformed himself to align with the wealth. Amidst the triumph of his entrepreneurial journey and the enchantment of meeting Charlotte, he had lost sight of his true self. He strolled into his home office and flipped open his laptop. With quivering hands, he started to tap away at the keys. Dear Charlotte, I regret to inform you that I cannot proceed with the wedding. You deserve a love that is whole and unwavering, and I cannot be that for you. I understand now that I've been deceiving myself, attempting to embody a persona that isn't truly me. He paused, gazing at the text displayed on the screen. An email holds the power to alter the course of everything, to unveil the truth, liberate him or utterly obliterate him. His finger lingered above the send button while the first light of dawn crept over the city. Ethan failed to send the email. Instead, he found himself navigating the quiet streets toward Emily's apartment building as the first light of dawn broke through the horizon. He lingered in his car for 20 minutes, mustering the courage to send her a text. I'm outside. Just 5 minutes, she called out. Emily emerged at the entrance of the building, clad in paint-splattered sweatpants and a baggy t-shirt, her hair tousled from a restless sleep. She appeared more tangible than anything he had experienced in years. You shouldn't be here, she remarked, yet she took a seat beside him in the car regardless. I must grasp it all, he said, turning to face her. That day you departed. There's more to this narrative, isn't there? Emily gazed at her hands. Your company was on the verge of greatness. Your enthusiasm was palpable as you dedicated countless hours to your craft. Then my father fell ill. You've mentioned that before. What I didn't mention was that your investors paid me a visit. Ethan froze. What? They claimed that your bond with me was distracting, that a CEO required a specific image and particular connections. Charlotte was mentioned specifically. They were out of line. Indeed, they were correct, Ethan. Reflect on your current existence. Take a moment to reflect on your accomplishments. What is the price? His hands clutched the steering wheel tightly. They orchestrated every detail. They recognized your promise. Charlotte had a knack for opening doors that remained closed to me. The ties of her family, their power and reach. So you simply decided to turn your back and leave? Emily's eyes brimmed with tears. I required funds for my father's medical care. Assistance was offered. In return for stepping aside. Did they pay you off? Ethan's voice trembled. I accepted the offer out of necessity. As my father faced his final moments, I realized that you were meant for greater pursuits than what a struggling artist could offer. The stillness in the car was overwhelming. I never cashed their check, Emily murmured. I discovered an alternative, but by that time, you were already making strides in your career and involved with Charlotte. You ought to have informed me. Could it have changed anything? Reflect on your current existence, Ethan. The triumph, the acclaim, the void, he cut in the relentless facade. Do you have any idea how draining it is to conform to their expectations? Then don't be, Emily said, turning to face him. But don't hold our history accountable for the decisions you make today. You embraced this existence, embraced Charlotte, because I believed I had lost you for all time, because it was simpler than confronting that anguish. What comes next? Now I find myself lost in uncertainty. He reclined, shutting his eyes. except that I'm meant to be tying the knot in 12 hours. And here I am, in my car with the one woman I've ever genuinely loved. As Emily's breath hitched. Do not. Please refrain from making such statements. Why should I? It is indeed the truth. In just a few hours, you will make your way down that aisle with Charlotte, fulfilling the expectations placed upon you, while I remain seated, observing, as that is the path we both must follow. She opened the car door. Farewell, Ethan. Embrace joy. Make an effort to find joy. He observed her retreating, burdened by a reality that transformed everything while simultaneously leaving it all unchanged. The sun had risen completely, heralding the start of his wedding day, a day that now seemed more daunting than ever before. The wedding venue thrummed with energy, as florists meticulously crafted intricate centerpieces. Caterers set up the reception hall, and wedding planners darted around, clipboards in hand and headsets on, orchestrating the day's events. Ethan faced the mirror in his dressing room, grappling with the intricacies of his bow tie. Mark, the best man, observed with a furrowed brow. You look absolutely terrible, Mark remarked. Rest eluded me. Feeling uncertain? Before Ethan could respond, his phone vibrated with a message from Charlotte. Is everything going smoothly for you? The media is already assembling outside. It's not too late, you know, Mark said softly, to turn away and confront the repercussions, the controversy, the impact on the enterprise. Since when have you shown any interest in that? Mark moved closer, adjusting Ethan's tie with careful precision. The Ethan I knew in college wouldn't have cared at all about how things looked. From his vantage point by the window, Ethan observed Emily as she assisted in arranging the bridesmaids. She laughed at something, her face illuminating in that familiar way he cherished deeply. She shared details about the investors, Ethan remarked. Concerning their agreement, Mark paused. What agreement? They compensated her to part ways with me, clearing the path for Charlotte. Jesus, Mark shook his head. And you're really going to follow through with this? What options are available to me? There is always a choice, my friend. Always. A knock at the door broke the moment. Charlotte's father, Richard Miller, intervened. Just 5 minutes to go, Ethan. Is everything okay? Very well, sir. Richard shut the door quietly behind him. I hear you had a captivating discussion with Emily Harper yesterday. Ethan felt a knot tighten in his stomach. You were aware of the agreement with the investors. I orchestrated it. Richard smiled with a chilling demeanor. You possessed great promise, Ethan. Continuing to do so. Yet you sought direction. The perfect links. The perfect partner. You orchestrated every aspect of my existence. I crafted it. There's a difference. Richard adjusted his cufflinks with precision. Shall we now move forward with the ceremony? Unless you would rather I reach out regarding those pending contracts your company requires? The danger was unmistakable. I'll be there, Ethan said, his voice strained. Richard gave a brief nod and departed. Mark let out a soft whistle. That's quite the father-in-law you're about to have, Ethan remarked, glancing out the window once more. Emily stood in solitude, arranging the flowers at the altar with care. Everything about her was authentic, sincere, a stark contrast to the fabricated existence he had been navigating. The strains of the wedding march filled the air. The moment has come to make a decision, brother, Mark stated. Who will you become? Is it the man they fashioned, or the man you truly embody? Ethan adjusted his jacket, thoughts swirling in his head. In just 10 minutes, he would find himself at that altar, uttering vows that felt uncertain, with Emily observing closely. The wedding march resonated through the air as guests stood in unison. Charlotte graced the end of the aisle, a vision in white. Yet Ethan's gaze wandered to Emily, who stood among the other bridesmaids. As the minister commenced his address, Ethan felt his hands quiver, while Charlotte gripped them more firmly, her smile flawlessly rehearsed. Dearly beloved. Ethan's thoughts spiraled back to his discussion with Richard Miller, to Emily's disclosure, to all the meticulously arranged instances that had brought him to this point. If anyone has any objections to the union of these two individuals, please speak now. Emily shifted uneasily among the bridesmaids. their gazes locking for a fleeting moment, and in that instant, something within Ethan broke. "I can't," he declared, his voice slicing through the minister's speech. Charlotte's smile became rigid. "What? I can't do this?" Ethan's voice wavered, his hands shaking as he adjusted his bow tie. "Charlotte, I've been deceiving myself. I've exerted so much effort to conform to the expectations placed upon me. By your father, my investors, society, but I can't continue this way any longer. I've lost myself, and I can't make these vows without knowing who I truly am." Murmurs echoed through the crowd. Richard Miller rose to his feet, his expression clouding over. "Ethan," Charlotte whispered sharply. "Don't you dare!" Charlotte's face drained of color as she revealed. "I'm aware of the investors, the arrangement with Emily, everything. That was ages ago. It holds no significance now. It holds significance because it was all meticulously arranged, each moment, every decision. Everything was an illusion. Consider your actions wisely," Richard remarked from his seat, his tone subdued yet piercing. "You turn your back now, and I'll ensure your business goes up in flames. Agreements terminated, collaborations ended. Let's see if you can rise from the ruins, Ethan." The threat in his voice was unmistakable. This was not a hollow warning. Ethan pivoted to confront the guests. "I apologize for taking up your time, but I cannot marry someone I do not love." Not when he halted, his gaze landing on Emily's astonished expression. "Not when my heart isn't in it," Ethan said, taking a deep breath as he locked eyes with Charlotte. "You deserve someone who can offer you everything, and I'm afraid I'm not that individual." "I apologize," Charlotte said, retreating as though struck. "You scoundrel," she hissed. "After everything we created, you were the one who crafted it," Ethan responded. "You and your dad. I merely fulfilled my role." He began to walk away, but Richard stepped in front of him. "Consider what you're discarding," Richard growled. "Your business, your legacy. Hold on to them," Ethan said as he removed his bow tie entirely. "I'd prefer to have nothing and be true to myself than to possess everything and live a lie." He strode down the aisle, moving past the astonished guests, beyond Charlotte's rage and Richard's menacing words. He halted at the threshold, casting a glance over his shoulder at Emily. She remained motionless, tears cascading down her cheeks. He silently apologized to her, then stepped through the doors into the bright sunlight. Amidst the turmoil that unfolded behind him, a rare clarity enveloped his thoughts for the first time in years. He had opted for authenticity instead of facade, affection rather than ease. At this point, he was left with no choice but to confront the repercussions. His phone vibrated incessantly with a flurry of calls and messages, yet he chose to disregard them completely. He climbed into his car and drove away, abandoning the flawless wedding, the ideal life, and all the deceit that came with it. He was uncertain about what lay ahead, but there was comfort in knowing it would be authentic. A week following the wedding fiasco, Charlotte burst into Ethan's office without warning. "You've destroyed it all," she exclaimed, pounding her fists on his desk. "Do you have any understanding of what you've created?" Ethan lifted his gaze from the screen of his laptop. "I can only picture the media having a blast." "The media? Is that really your concern?" She let out a harsh laugh. "My father is leveraging all his business connections. The value of your shares is declining. The board is contemplating your removal from the CEO position. I anticipated that outcome. And you really don't care? To be frank? No." He shut his laptop with a definitive snap. "For the first time in years, I feel like myself," Charlotte said as she settled into a chair. "Was everything just a fabrication? All that lies between us? Absolutely not. My feelings for you ran deep, Charlotte. Still do, but not in the way a husband ought to care for his wife. Because of her?" Charlotte's voice trembled. "Emily, due to my influence. I lost my sense of self in the pursuit of becoming the person your father envisioned, the person you desired. I sought a person who grasped the essence of ambition, someone who wouldn't allow feelings to obscure their clarity of thought. And that's precisely why we wouldn't have been compatible. Ethan rose and moved toward the window. I no longer wish to exist devoid of feelings. What comes next? Do you really believe Emily will come running back to you? This is not concerning Emily. It's about being honest with myself, Charlotte said, adjusting the fabric of her designer dress. Well, appreciate your candor. I trust it provides comfort as you navigate the world of food trucks rather than the tech industry. Is that what your father is intending? He has far more sinister intentions. She made her way to the door. You picked the wrong opponent, Ethan. I never selected any adversaries. I simply decided on my own. She lingered at the entrance. You know what's ironic? I genuinely admired your courage to step away. What about now? She shook her head in disbelief. Now I just feel sorry for you. Once she departed, Ethan's assistant hurried in. Sir, the board is calling an emergency meeting, and the press is downstairs. Let them come, Ethan replied, turning back to the window. I've got nothing left to hide. His phone vibrated with a message from Emily. Just came across the update regarding the board meeting. Are you doing all right? He smiled, typing back, never better. And to his surprise, it was the truth. The boardroom was filled to capacity. 12 serious expressions fixed their gaze on Ethan as he settled into the chair at the head of the table. Mr. Taylor, the chairman began, in light of recent events and the company's declining stock value, we need to discuss your position. You mean my very public wedding disaster? Ethan responded with a sense of calmness. In addition to other matters, the chairman adjusted his papers. Richard Miller has retracted all backing for our Asian expansion. 3 key investors have exited, and your individual decisions have contributed to the company's unstable image. I comprehend. Are you? Another board member leaned in closer. You discarded a crucial partnership for what reason? How about a heartfelt romantic gesture? Ethan rose gradually. Allow me to spare you the effort. I understand you're about to request my resignation, and I am prepared to submit it. A hush fell over the room. But first, allow me to share something with you. This venture began in my garage. Without investors or connections, it's all about solid ideas and relentless effort. Then I allowed others to persuade me that achievement required adhering to their standards, becoming the person they desired me to be. Mr. Taylor, I'm not done yet, Ethan stated with conviction. You desire my resignation? All right. What about the essential patents? What is the technology that contributes to this company's value? That lingers in my mind. The chairman's complexion drained of color. You can't. Actually, I can. Review the initial incorporation paperwork. I upheld ownership of the intellectual property. The company is yours, but my innovations remain with me. A hush enveloped the room. So, Ethan continued, we can approach this the hard way, involving lawyers, courts, and more scandal, or we can negotiate a clean break that serves everyone's interests. The board members exchanged glances. What are your conditions? The chairman finally inquired. I descended softly. You have the authority to select new leadership, while I maintain ownership of my original patents and the liberty to begin anew. Your reputation lies in ruins. Ethan smiled. Thanks to the Millers, I've got nothing left to lose. The chairman cleared his throat. We'll need to discuss this. Take your time. Ethan made his way to the door. But keep in mind, I've already shown that I'm ready to leave behind what no longer nourishes my spirit. Outside the boardroom, his phone vibrated. Once more, it's Emily. How did it turn out? He responded with a message. I've reclaimed my life once more. Care to join me for a cup of coffee? Her reply arrived promptly. The familiar spot? Half an hour? For the first time since the wedding, Ethan experienced a profound sense of liberation. He was uncertain about what lay ahead, but each step would be his own decision, and perhaps, just perhaps, he wouldn't have to journey alone. When Ethan arrived, Joe's coffee shop was enveloped in a serene stillness. Emily settled at the familiar table, 2 cups poised in anticipation. You got my usual, he remarked as he took a seat. There are memories that linger. She slid his coffee across the table to him. Black, 2 sugars. Emily, I don't. She raised her hand. Before you say anything, I need you to listen. Ethan felt a heaviness in his chest at the sound of her voice. What you did at the wedding, she started, distancing herself from it all. It was courageous, but I cannot be your reward for that courage. That's not what this is it? She locked her gaze with his. You discovered the truth about the investors and the reasons behind my departure, and now you're ready to risk it all. I discarded it because it wasn't genuine, and what we shared was... Emily's voice trembled. We were just kids, Ethan, filled with youthful love and innocence. Our emotions were genuine. Indeed, they were, but that doesn't imply they should control our decisions today. She cradled her cup in her hands. You have just lost your company, your status, and likely many of your friends. I'm not concerned with any of that. But I am, Emily retorted, leaning away from the table. I cannot bear the weight of your life's disarray. I won't be the reason you threw everything away. You're not the reason, Ethan insisted. You are the jolt that opened my eyes to the artificiality that had taken over everything. So what comes next? We resume from our last moment, as if the past 5 years were but a fleeting dream. Ethan extended his hand toward her, yet she withdrew. I have a life now, Ethan, a career I cherish, and students who rely on me. I can't simply abandon everything because you've experienced a moment of clarity. I'm not asking you to. Yes, you are, she replied, rising to her feet. You're gazing at me as if I'm your answer, as if loving me will magically restore everything to how it once was. Emily, that's not it, she said, collecting her belongings. I once held love for you, Ethan. Pained me deeply. Yet, I have transformed beyond that girl and you have evolved past being that boy. We cannot move in reverse. Then we move ahead united. I can't, she said, her voice trembling as tears welled in her eyes. Not in this manner. Not when you're still discovering your identity beyond the allure of achievement. She paused at the table. Ethan, Emily began, her voice unwavering even as tears glistened in her eyes. I once loved you, and a piece of me will always hold onto that feeling. Yet, I cannot serve as your anchor while you continue to drift. It's essential to invest time in discovering your true self and understanding your desires. Not for me, Charlotte, or anyone else, but for your own sake. She took a step back, her hand shaking as it slipped from his. If after everything you still think there's a possibility for us, then perhaps we can have a conversation. But at this moment, I must release you for the benefit of us both. His phone vibrated. Yet another update regarding the decline of his company's stock. A further reminder of all that had slipped away from him. For the first time, he found himself questioning whether Emily had a point. Perhaps he had to embark on a journey of self-discovery before he could navigate his path back to her. 3 months went by. Ethan left his luxurious penthouse behind, opting for a simple apartment, swapping out his tailored suits for casual jeans and t-shirts. The media ultimately turned its attention elsewhere, seeking out fresh controversies to pursue. He settled into his cozy home office, enveloped by white boards filled with intricate code and imaginative sketches. His new venture was coming together, something more intimate and significant than his last enterprise. The sound of his phone pierced the silence. Hey Mark, how's life in exile going for you? His friend inquired. Actually, quite well, Ethan said, leaning back in his chair. Have you been working on your coding skills again? Do you recall that app concept we brainstormed back in college? The initiative focused on linking local artists with performance spaces? Indeed, I am in the process of creating it. Seriously this time. Mark let out a laugh. Charlotte would have despised that. Charlotte despised anything that lacked a promise of return on investment. Mark hesitated for a moment. Have you heard? She is set to marry once more. A certain hedge fund manager. That's great for her. Ethan was taken aback to realize he truly meant it. And what about Emily? Ethan felt a constriction in his chest. Still allowing me room to breathe. Still guiding me in the world of art. You know she was right, Mark said. About the necessity of discovering your true self first. Ethan glanced at his whiteboards, a knowing look in his eyes. That's my aim. through the creation of an application designed for artists in need. By recalling my identity prior to the wealth. Before anyone began dictating who I ought to become, he caught Mark letting out a sigh. You appear more content. I exist. Financially challenged. Yet more joyful. Not quite destitute. Those patents are still in your possession, which I'm using to support something meaningful this time. After ending the call, Ethan strolled over to his window. His perspective had shifted from the city skyline to a quaint park where local artists occasionally displayed their easels. He had spotted Emily there once, leading a children's art class. He observed from a distance as she guided small hands in grasping paintbrushes, her expression radiating pure delight. She had been correct. They were unable to retreat. Yet perhaps, once he discovered his true self, they could forge something entirely fresh. His laptop chimed with a notification, yet another piece discussing his fall from grace. He shut it down without a glance. Some descents, he was discovering, were merely a way back to firm footing. Welcome to the local arts festival, proclaimed the banner that hung gracefully above the park entrance. Ethan strolled through, tablet in hand, evaluating the venue mapping feature of his new app. At that moment, his gaze fell upon her. Emily lingered beside a showcase of student creations, articulating methods to captivated parents. Her hair was swept into a carefree bun, with paint smudges adorning her hands, just as he recalled from their college days. She lifted her gaze, and for a fleeting instant, their eyes locked together. Neither budged. "Hello," he said, approaching with a casual stride. "Hello," she indicated with a nod towards his laid-back outfit. "The suits have vanished, I notice, along with the facade." He grinned. "Your students possess remarkable talent. They are unafraid. They craft their work unbothered by the opinions of others." She observed him closely. "You look great, Ethan. More of you. I feel more like myself." He displayed his tablet to her. "Remember that app concept I had back in college, the one aimed at linking artists with venues, the one you set aside for your tech venture? I am currently in the process of constructing it. In the act of creation, rather than merely pursuing gains." Emily's demeanor softened. "What inspired your return to it?" "Remembering who I was, who I aspired to become." He locked eyes with her. "You were right, about needing to find myself first." A child dashed up to Emily, pulling at her sleeve. "Ms. Harper, Tommy is consuming the paint once more. Responsibility beckons." She chuckled. "It was a pleasure to see you, Ethan." "Is that you, Emily?" he called out as she turned away. "I'm sorry. Not for departing from Charlotte, but for anticipating that you would seamlessly re-enter my life. You truly deserved more than that." She took a moment to reflect. "Thank you. That holds significant value. Would you be interested in grabbing a coffee sometime? As companions? I would be delighted to demonstrate the functionality of the app for you. Seek your perspective as a creator." Emily paused for a moment, then beamed. "Coffee sounds lovely, but only coffee, just coffee," he concurred. As she rushed away to tackle the paint-eating dilemma, Ethan experienced a sense of relief he hadn't felt in months. He was uncertain if they could ever reclaim what had slipped away, yet perhaps they could create something fresh, something genuine. He launched his app, placing yet another marker on the map. Children's Art Exhibition. Emily Harper. His fingers lingered above the keyboard before he typed, "Fearless creation happening here." It was a modest move, yet he was discovering that modest moves frequently pave the way to the most significant outcomes. "Your app is truly impressive," Emily remarked, as she browsed through her phone. They gathered at Joe's coffee shop, which had become their familiar meeting place in recent weeks. "Thank you. Local artists are truly engaging with it." Ethan observed her as she navigated the interface. "I could definitely use some guidance on art," Emily remarked, her eyebrow arching in curiosity. "Are you extending a job opportunity to me? Perhaps. Curious?" Before she could respond, her phone vibrated. She examined it, her expression dimming a bit. "Is everything all right?" Ethan inquired. "Yeah, just..." She let out a deep sigh. "I was involved. Last month I ended it." Ethan almost sputtered on his coffee. You were engaged to a fellow educator. He was a decent fellow, leading a steady existence. She ran her finger along the edge of her cup. But I just couldn't follow through. What held you back? Because whenever he spoke of our future, my mind wandered. She locked eyes with him. About you. The coffee shop appeared to dissolve into the background, leaving only them in focus. I ended it because I came to a realization, Emily continued. All these years, I've been treading carefully. Teaching ignites my passion, yet I found myself allowing fear to dictate other aspects of my life. What was I afraid of? Of embracing uncertainty, of facing the possibility of pain once more. She extended her hand across the table, grasping his, of confessing that my love for you has never faded. Ethan felt his heart race. Emily, please allow me to complete my thought. I have observed you over the last few weeks, noting the transformation you've undergone, rediscovering your true self. You're the Ethan I fell for back in college, but now you're even better, stronger, and you're still the Emily who inspired me to improve, he said gently. Perhaps, she tightened her grip on his hand. Perhaps we could give it another shot, not resuming from where we paused, but embarking on a fresh journey, as an art consultant, he playfully suggested. As anything we desire. She smiled. No investors, no deals, no expectations, just us. Ethan rose, gently pulling her up alongside him. Before the eyes of all at Joe's coffee shop, he kissed her, marking their first kiss in 5 years. As they separated, Emily let out a joyful laugh. The barista is applauding. Let them applaud. Ethan leaned his forehead against hers. I cherish you, Emily Harper. I continued on without pause. She grinned. I love you too, but I'm still collecting consulting fees for the app. Every cent was well spent. They exited the coffee shop, fingers intertwined, stepping into an uncharted future that neither had envisioned, yet both had quietly wished for. Sometimes, Ethan realized, you had to lose everything to find what truly mattered. Do you really want to live here? Emily inquired, glancing about the modest dwelling on the city's edge. It's quite different from your penthouse. That's precisely why I adore it. Ethan embraced her from behind. Additionally, the backyard offers an ideal space for an art studio. 6 months have gone by since their meeting at Joe's coffee shop. Ethan's app soared in popularity, linking artists throughout the city. Emily had truly stepped into the role of his art consultant, infusing the project with her knowledge and enthusiasm. The bedroom might serve as your office, she proposed, strolling through the house. This room would be ideal for painting classes. Are you considering relocating your students to this location? Emily pivoted to confront him. I've been reflecting on some ideas. What if I launched my own art school? A compact initiative that emphasizes fostering creativity over merely imparting techniques. Utilizing the app to highlight student creations? Exactly. Her eyes sparkled with enthusiasm. We could build a genuine community of creators. Ethan took out his tablet, eagerly beginning to sketch his concepts. We could incorporate a feature for student portfolios, virtual galleries. Look at us, Emily chuckled, envisioning a future together through property layouts and app functionalities, superior to strategizing amidst financial investments and business consolidations. A car rolled to a stop outside, its presence breaking the stillness of the moment. Mark showed up with pizza and champagne in hand. Here's to new beginnings, he toasted, perched on a moving box in their vacant living room, and to finally witness the joy of my closest friends. How is the tech industry treating you? Ethan inquired. It's dull without you around to stir the pot, Mark smiled. Though Charlotte's new husband is trying hard to take your place. Good for them, Emily replied genuinely. They had genuinely left the past in the rearview mirror. Later that night, after Mark departed, Ethan and Emily found themselves in their backyard, gazing up at the stars. No regrets? He inquired. About leaving your apartment and your stable teaching job? None, she leaned against him. Sometimes the boldest decisions are the most correct. As if stepping away from your own nuptials. It felt like confessing lingering feelings to an old flame in a cozy cafe. Ethan pressed his lips against hers gently. We certainly approached everything in reverse, didn't we? Perhaps. But we arrived at this point eventually. Inside the house, their phones chimed with alerts from the app. An increasing number of artists are joining, and more venues are welcoming them in. A modest concept was blossoming, forging connections they had never envisioned. Are you prepared to create something genuine? Ethan inquired. Emily gazed at their new abode, the vision they both cherished beginning to materialize. With you always. The distant city lights sparkled like stars. Yet, for a change, Ethan found himself unbothered by the absence of his penthouse view. Everything he required was right here at his fingertips. Affection, intention, and a tomorrow shaped by authenticity instead of assumptions. At times, one must return to the beginning to discover their authentic journey. After 2 years, the backyard underwent a remarkable transformation. A vibrant art studio now occupied what was once a vacant area, resonating with the joyful sounds of children laughing and expressing their creativity. Emily glided from one easel to another, providing support and inspiration to her students. Ethan observed the world outside the studio's windows as he typed away on his laptop. His app transformed into a vibrant platform, linking artists not only in their local communities, but throughout the nation. He maintained a small company, prioritizing its original mission over the pursuit of relentless expansion. Mr. Taylor, one of Emily's young students, dashed over to him. Check out my latest painting. That's stunning, Sophie. He grinned, studying the vibrant abstract. Should we feature it on your gallery page? Emily stood in the doorway, a hint of paint smudged across her cheek. Class is coming to a close. Prepared to share our news. They had invited their nearest friends for an evening meal. Mark, a few of Emily's fellow educators, creatives they encountered through the app, no corporate executives, no social climbers, just authentic individuals who resonated with their vision. So, Emily started, gently clasping Ethan's hand beneath the table. We have some news. You must be pregnant, Mark speculated, prompting a laugh from Emily. Not yet, she replied. But we are growing the family in a different manner. We're opening 3 new art schools. Their friends burst into applause. The app will link all the schools, Ethan elaborated, fostering a community of innovation and encouragement. Quite a departure from your days in the tech empire, Mark observed. But it's so much better, Ethan said, gently squeezing Emily's hand. As night fell, they found themselves in the backyard, gazing up at the stars above. Emily's head gently leaned against Ethan's shoulder. Charlotte sent me a message today, she murmured. Oh, she's launching an art therapy program at her foundation and inquired if we'd like to collaborate. Ethan smiled. Time truly has a way of mending all hurts. Shall we proceed with it? If you wish to. We have moved beyond that, no longer allowing past pains to dictate our decisions. Emily pressed her lips to his gently. No, we're not. Their phones buzzed with incoming notifications. An increasing number of creators are joining the platform, while a growing number of learners are enrolling in classes. Yet, for a change, the technology could take a back seat. They had created something genuine together, not merely a business or an institution, but a life rooted in authenticity and collective aspirations. Do you recall the moment you left that wedding? Emily inquired. The finest choice I have ever made. Second best, she corrected, her fingers brushing against the modest wedding band on his finger, a stark contrast to the extravagant engagement ring he had once presented to Charlotte. 6 months had passed since they exchanged vows in an intimate ceremony held in their backyard studio, without media coverage or corporate backing. Only passion, creativity, and authenticity. Some conclusions were truly fresh starts in disguise, and at times the most winding path took you precisely to the destination you were destined for all along. Ethan drew Emily nearer, appreciating each moment, including the difficult ones that had led them to this point. Their future lay ahead, as unmarked and brimming with potential as a pristine canvas, poised to be adorned with hues that only they could conjure together. Hello everyone, If you've appreciated this contemporary tale of Ethan and Emily, illustrating how we sometimes must let go of everything to discover what genuinely counts, and how true love can endure through time and challenges, please consider liking this video and sharing it with someone who may need a gentle nudge to remember that real joy surpasses any fleeting achievement. I would be very interested to hear your thoughts on Ethan's transition from corporate achievement to discovering his authentic self, as well as Emily's resilience in both releasing him and embracing love once more. Share your thoughts in the comments about which aspect of their story struck a chord with you, and be sure to mention the country you're tuning in from. To discover more captivating tales like this one, be sure to subscribe to the channel and tap that notification bell to keep yourself informed about the latest uploads.